So you can find many solutions to monitor your battery, the Chevy Volt battery, or even the Tesla battery. But I wanted to find something that can monitor it and not spend hundreds of dollars on BMSs and whatnot. And I figured this simple idea. So this is a package from ISDT. It cost about $3. You can find it on Alibaba, and it's a small PCB, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's little connectors there that basically will connect to the same pins that monitor the voltage of each one of the cells. And it comes with an XT60 connector, but the unique thing about the XT60 connector here, there's a third pin, and you can actually see it here, and that black cable is connected to that third pin, and that basically will connect to this PCB, and I'll show you how I'm doing it. And it's sending the voltage of each one of the cells in a serial fashion through that connection. So what you do essentially, you connect it to this little gadget, the BattGO BG-Linker, which cost about $9 or maybe $9.99, so $10. And you connect it here, and you can see here in the bottom that it has the third cable or connector here, the plus, the minus, and then the serial. And then this side will connect using a normal USB cable to your computer, and then you can just query the voltage, the temperature of each one of this. I mean, the temperature of the battery and the voltage of each one of the cells, and then you can do whatever you want with it. So I also wrote a little utility that pulls that information from all the USB that connect. Let's say you have multiple batteries, so you just connect them to a little hub, and then you can monitor each one of the cells and each one of the batteries. So what I'll do is I'll start by showing you how to connect this specifically for the Chevy Volt battery. It will be the same for anything else. Maybe I'll follow up with a video for the Tesla battery. And overall, you'll be able to monitor the voltage of each one of the individual cells for $9.99 plus $3, so less than $15, assuming that you know to solder and you already have a PC that can connect to it. So let's start. So first of all, this is coming with a little instruction. It's very, very simple. The XT60i or the XT60 connector with the third leg is on this side, and on this side is the little PCB board that I showed you before. And basically there are 7 connections here, battery cell 1S through 6S, so 6 of those, and then the last one is basically the one that you need to solder all the way to the third pin on the XT60i. So that's it. That's very, very simple. It is getting the voltage from the battery plus, which is here, and the battery minus, or the first minus, or the minus, which I didn't mention actually. So the minus here, and then the last voltage of the last cell, and let's do it. So what's the plan? The plan is to take a 7S or 6S with a minus cable, and then cut it in half, and then solder one side to the PCB. So you'll have, let's say, a male connector or a female connector, doesn't matter which way we go. And then take the other side and connect it to the Chevy Volt connector, which I'll show you. The Chevy Volt connector, and it really depends on how you configure your batteries. Mine are 6S, they're 24 volt. If you watch my other videos, you'll see that basically not all the pins are available, or only 6 of them actually work. And to figure which 6 work, the best thing to do is just connect it and just use a multimeter and check the voltage of each one of those when one side is on the minus and another side is in you know, in one of those cables. Mine might be different than yours. I don't know. This is the only you know, examples that I have, so I don't know. But we'll get to that later. First, we'll start with this. Just need to find a way to put my camera so you can see what I'm doing, or maybe I'm just going to complete the work and just show you the work completed. So that was done. On the right side, this is the serial cable that will go to the XT60i, and then the rest of the cables are basically the 6-pin or 7-pin, you know, for 1S, 2S, 3S, 4S, and so on. Not the best work, but I'm getting old and my eyes are tricky. Nevertheless, nothing is touching nothing. By the way, if you by mistake make either of those touch each other, you're gonna short your cells, so not good idea. One thing I realized I didn't mention, I put a little bit of tape around it so it wouldn't move, and just to make me feel good. When you order those PCBs, you do need to provide a serial number. Basically, you order it online and then you send them a little Excel spreadsheet with what you want the serial number. So this will have embedded in it the serial number of the battery, and also a couple of control parameters like the highest voltage, lowest voltage, and the capacity of the battery. So I have both the Chevy Volt batteries and Tesla batteries, so I configured them slightly differently when I sent them the email. And accidentally now I actually used the C001, which is the serial that I defined for the first Tesla battery. The others, oops, the others are D001 and so on for the Chevy Volt battery, but it doesn't matter. I mean, in the end of the day, right now this has this connector and I connect it to whatever I want. For this demo here, I will connect it to a Chevy Volt, which they have the same voltages anyway. The only difference is the capacity. So I forgot to mention that, but this is how you order it. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to solder the X60i connector, the plus and minus, and the third cable, which is the this cable here on the right side, this long cable. So we'll do that next. So this was done, plus minus, and the serial cable that connects to the PCB. So we're going to close it up, and I'm going to put crocodile ends to the plus and minus so I can connect it to my Chevy Volt battery. So I'll do that next. Okay, so that was done as well. So now we have crocodile ends, which are the plus and minus that I connect to the battery, and the serial cable connected to the PCB, and the PCB will connect to the 6 pins that will be connected to this connector that will go to the Chevy Volt. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the connector on this side, on the right cables, and we should be ready to go. So this was done. So basically the connector that goes to the Chevy Volt battery, I identified each one of the cells. You can do so by basically two options. One, connect it and then measure the voltage in each one of the cables. The other one is just to look at the colors, which is pretty tough because there's many colors here that looks the same, at least to me. The ones that I'm not using, I just trimmed them nicely, and I'm going to cover it with a tape, of course, and make it all look nice and isolate everything with the tape. But for now, I'm going to keep it like that. The other thing to remember, this is actually 7 pins, 6S, and then a minus. So the minus I just connected to crocodile, which I'll connect to the battery minus. So now the first thing we're going to test is going to test this. So we're going to connect this to a balance control and just show that it's actually measuring correctly. And then we'll be able to go and connect the PCB and connect it to the computer and start reading the data. So here we are by the battery. First word of caution, gotta make sure that none of those are touching each other. If they're touching each other, you're gonna fry that cable in a split second and all the works goes to the garbage. So I am going to not hold the phone and do it. I'm going to shut down the phone, connect it, and then just show you. There we go. I connected the minus to the battery minus and the connector, of course. And here you go. You can see that this works perfectly. Here are the 6 cells, and the differences is 14 millivolts. And you can see it says a lithium-ion 6S and 21.53 volts right now. So that worked great. So now it's time to make it more safe. So I'm going to wrap it with some tape, and only then we're going to connect the PCB. Okay, so wrapped it nicely. You can see each individual and then all of them together. Connected to the PCB. Okay, and now we have the XT60 also touching the minus and the plus of the battery. And time to connect the XT60 to the BattGO just to check that it works, and then we'll do the USB. So let me do that. So the XT60 is connected, and if I'm gonna do, make sure that you can see it. All right, there you go. So if I'm gonna click on arrow down, now you will see the PCB telling me it's a Chevy Volt. Because that's what I remember, that's what I asked them to put on the PCB, and it's a 200 amp hour, and there's some other parameters that you can feed in. Some of them I did, some of them I didn't. Arrow down again, or arrow up maybe, arrow up, and here's the battery voltage. And here's the time I want to warn you about something. When it's connected, you see right now there's no 6-pin or 7-pin connected to this. It's all done through the X60i, through the little serial cable. But what you see here is that it's reporting 90 millivolt difference, while I showed a moment before that if you connect directly, you know, each one of the cells with the cable, the 6X cable to the BattGO, it will actually report a lot less than that, like 20 whatever it was millivolt delta. So there is some inaccuracies, which I'm not sure 100% why. You can see here that the resolution is 100 of a volt and not 1,000 of a volt, versus if I'm connecting, you will see, for example, 3.60 and another 0. So that could be part of it. Contacted them and see what they have to say. Nevertheless, it's still good, good enough for me. I'm not, you know, if it's less than 100 millivolts, I don't really care much, and it worked fine. So that's it. So this now works. All we need to do is connect it to the computer and using the USB, and I'll show you that now. All right, so here is the USB connected to the XT60i, and just the USB cable that goes all the way to my computer. So this is basically ready to be monitored by the computer, and I will show you the computer side next. All right, so here's the little utility. It's connected via the USB to the PCB and spitting basically the serial number, the Chevy Volt 0C001, if you remember. That's the PCB that we connected, and then voltage of each cell. So you see here 6 voltages, and then the voltage of the entire battery, and then the delta, which is the lowest voltage and the highest voltage. And I mentioned before, this is 90 millivolt. It's actually less, but again, if it's below 100, I don't really care. This utility I will post in GitHub or somewhere so you guys can download it. It's very, very simple. not too many lines of code. Just connect to a COM port and parse the values. And then from there you can put it in your database, you can graph it, you can do whatever you want. But here we are monitoring the Chevy Volt battery, each cell individually for voltage as often as we want. That's it.